Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Learn It training today. We are and offsite. This is our live offsite event for Friday, March 17th. Today, we're going to be talking about the foundations of grit and resiliency. We have the wonderful Bendy Delaney here today to show you guys everything and everything like that. But if you guys just want to let us know where you guys are coming from here in the chat. Just so you know, we always love to know where everyone's coming from. I know we have a global audience, so and I know it's not just good morning; it's good afternoon, good evening. It might be really late for some of you as well. So yeah, just let us know where you guys are coming from in the chat. And want to explain how these live classes work. You guys may be familiar with Offsite. It is our online community of over 7,000 professionals. Let me just go ahead and get that up on the screen for you guys, just so you can see what I'm talking about here. So yeah, how it works is every other Friday we do one of these live events. I know we did one last Friday. That was just because of a scheduling issue. But it's every other Friday. It'll be 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time will be our start time. We always center it around a monthly theme. And these courses, these live classes that we're having here are all based on our full length workshop. So what you're getting is just I would say half the class of our full class, essentially. There's a lot more interactivity in our full classes, obviously, because you'll have your cameras on and be interacting via your camera and microphone and everything like that. So, we can see you and everything like that. This one, obviously, it's going to be all kind of chat based and everything like that. But that's what it's based upon. And it's always led by subject matter experts and guest speakers. Today we have Bendy. Bendy Delaney. Bindi is originally from Australia, currently residing in Madison, Wisconsin. She graduated from the University of Sydney with a Master of Teaching and Wollongong University with a bachelor's degree in exercise science. Bindi has a wealth of experience in education, health, and wellness, both here in the USA and in Australia. She has been a teacher, a coach, an instructor, and course developer, leading the creation of professional development education courses in previous roles. Bindi believes that education and fun are key ways to help people develop a lifelong relationship with health and wellness. Outside of teaching, you'll find Bindi skiing, biking, swimming, hiking, and taking on outdoor adventures. Hope I got all of that there. But yeah, so we have Bindi to talk to you guys about resiliency and grit. Obviously, I think anyone in the financial or banking industry, this would definitely be, relevant, very relevant right now. And then just wanted to give just a little small thing about Offsite, guys, before we jump right into this. Just Offsite, we do have not just every other Friday do we have these live classes, but in Offsite itself, we do have these Ask the Expert sessions, and those are every other Wednesday. Those we have our instructors, they're there to answer your questions. Usually we have a topic already selected, like Word, PowerPoint, or Outlook or something like that. And you can bring whatever type of office question you have to there. Like, for example, let's just say you had a spreadsheet and you were really struggling with getting a formula or something like that to work, like across multiple spreadsheets or something like that. You can bring your spreadsheet, you can share it, show it to the instructor, and the instructor will advise you on how to, fix it essentially, and show you how to get that done so that you can, get that worksheet worked on and everything like that. And again, that's every other Wednesday, guys. Live instructor help in Offsite. Again, to take advantage of that, you do have to go to offsite by learnit.com. It's our online community. There is some changes coming to that soon, but we'll get to those. They've been pushed back a month, so there'll be some major changes on that side of accessing Offsite. Just to give you guys a FYI right now, but right now you can still go to offsite by learnit.com to join the network of over 7,000 working professionals, instructors, teachers, educators. They're all talking, networking, and trying to better ourselves and upskill ourselves for our careers. With that, I'm going to hand it over to the wonderful Bendy. And Bendy, we do have to get you to share your screen. That's one thing.
Yeah, nope, I will do that. All right. Well, welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much, Ben, for that wonderful introduction. It is wonderful to have you all join me this morning or this evening or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. But I love the journey of education and the empowerment that it brings to always be learning. So it is just so wonderful to have you here. And I hope that today, maybe you will get a small takeaway from sort of this shorter version of our workshop on the foundations of grit and resiliency. So resilience and grit, let's have a look at what it is all about. The actual workshop, what we look at, I'll give you a few takeaways, what it explores. We start with change because when we are talking about resilience and grit, we are normally in the face of change. That's what happens when we're trying to put those skills into place. We're combating some kind of change or challenge. So we'll look at tools for helping us become and grow in our resilience. We then have grit. And grit, a surprising fact, resilience and grit are two very different concepts. They are not the same thing. And all of the skills that we look at in this workshop then help you to discover your ability to keep going when the going gets tough, right? Learn how to drive some more success at work and home, and overall help you with that ability to develop what we call a growth mindset for yourself and for those around you. So today, we're going to get started with that sneak peek into the workshop. So let's get there. There is one simple truth, and that is that change is the only constant in life. And that comes from Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher. We're always in a constant state of change. It's the only constant in life, right? Everything will and does change. Who agrees with that or disagrees? Love to hear from you in the chat. Who agrees with we're always in a state of change? It's really the only constant in life. And while you're contemplating that, whether or not you agree that everything will and does change, I want to introduce you to another concept. Yeah, Gary, I agree. Yeah, we are in a constant state of change. This other concept is called anitya. Maybe you've heard of it before. It comes from Sanskrit and an ancient language of India, and it means impermanence. And it represents this sort of idea of constant change where life is fluid, right? We never repeat the same moment twice. Every day is different from the day before. Your body has changed, your thoughts have changed, the world around you has changed, right? It's this idea that impermanence, everything is changing. So I'd like to hear again in the chat, and thank you for those agreeing that everything is constantly a state of change. But how do you view change? I'm going to ask you two questions. First, do you like change? Do you look forward to it? Or do you dislike change and it's something that you don't look forward to? Love to hear from you in the chat. Who looks forward to change? Or how do you view change? Or do you dislike or resist change and not look forward to it? Because when we're thinking about change, I think one thing that comes up to mind when we're deciding whether or not we like it or we dislike it is a common thought is that we wonder about what the type of change is, right? Is it a good change or a bad change? Because maybe if it's a good change, yeah, Gary, it depends on the change, right? If it's a good change, we look forward to it. If it's a bad change, maybe we resist the change. Preston, like opportunities of change. Personally, I like change. I change a lot. Move places, as you can see by my bio, move all over the world. I really enjoy change and the challenge it brings. Yeah, Megan, depends on the type of change. Planned is always easier to deal with. That's such a good thought. Planned change, because we can set up our skills in resilience prior to that change happening. So if we start with that change idea, because change obviously plays a big part in building resilience and building grit. And I want to have a look at change because here, if we think about two different types of change when we think about good or bad, right? We said it depends on the change. I want you to have a think about a change in your mind right now that maybe was for the bad or for the worse, right? A change that you didn't enjoy, or maybe a change that's coming that you know you're not going to enjoy. Have a think about that change. What comes along with those thoughts? And when we're thinking about this bad change, we might start to think of things that they're not going to get any better. right? That we don't sort of dream, we don't plan, right? We don't necessarily act. We're sort of in that place where if we're encountering a challenge, maybe we stop. And it's hard because a bad change, one that we're not going to enjoy, we tend to sort of resist it. And when we're in that place, you can call this a fixed mindset where we don't want to move out of it, right? We don't plan or act. And with that challenge, we stop. Now, I want you to have a think of a good change. Take a moment and think about something in your life, a good change that has already occurred, or a change that is coming, that's maybe planned, like Megan said, and you're looking forward to that change. What are the thoughts and feelings that come around with that good change? When we're in that kind of a mindset where we're looking forward to it, you're believing your success depends on the effort and the time you put into it, right? And when we're in that place, we sort of think about that things can get better. We dream and we plan, right? We take action. And if we encounter a setback, we tend to adapt. I like that, Gary. A raise at work, a good change, right? We're going to dream and plan with that good change. We're going to take action with that good change. And that sort of idea where we start to think about acting and dreaming and planning and looking at things getting better is what we can call what is a growth mindset. Because growth mindset is where resilience and grit lie. Our minds are super powerful. The stories that we tell ourselves and the things we believe about ourselves can actually then help us with change and can enable us to have new skills blossom. So let's look at maybe some changes that have occurred for us and kind of contemplate on how it might have affected us. I know there's some coming in the chat right now already, so to jumping ahead on looking at some changes in your life. I want to first look at a change that we might all remember. Who remembers the old street directory? The map book, right? And you had to flip the pages. Did anyone ever use that back in their day? It was something in Australia I used. We're a little bit behind the US in times. So back in Australia, when I was first learning to drive, you'd get your old street directory out and you'd be flipping the pages. Maybe you're the passenger and you're helping the driver drive. And then we got the internet. And after we had that street directory, we actually then used things like MapQuest or some kind of similar program. So you might have used where you print and you put in your directions and you print out the page, and then it takes you, you follow that plan and the little map and the instructions. And then we ended up with Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever awesome map app that you use right now with instantaneous directions, right? On cue, every turn of the car, every walking step. But I want you to consider what was the impact of that change. Right? How did we cope? Was it better? Was it worse? Was it challenging for someone with that change? Because there's always two sides of change. So I think it's great we never get lost, right? You can always find your way. It helps you look at, if roads are closed and traffic, and it helps you that way. But maybe if we consider someone who might be at a time that doesn't use technology, right? It might be more challenging for them to have that access of maps. I think someone else mentioned in a workshop not too long ago, what about glitches? If we rely on the instantaneous use of maps and you get a glitch, then you're lost and you have no idea how to get anywhere. We also sort of lose that sense of direction. We sort of rely on the map and we sort of don't necessarily know where we always are. Preston, eyes not always on the road, right? So that's sort of a change that I like to consider, one that we might all have some experience with. But now I want you to think of a change, a time of change in your life, something either professional or personal, something that you might be considered comfortable sharing with us. Have a think about what was the change And how did it affect you? Did it change for the better or the worse? But most importantly, I want you to reflect on how you coped with the change. What actions did you take? So, again, thinking about and love to hear from you sharing in the chat if you're comfortable. What was the change? Was it better? Was it worse? How did it affect you? And how did you cope? What were your actions, your thoughts, your reactions to that change? I'll give you a moment to reflect on that. You can reflect too on the attributes and the virtues that you needed to accept and roll with that change. Or maybe it was a really challenging change and you resisted the change, which sometimes we do that. So reflect on that change. What happened? How did you cope? I know for myself, a coping strategy for me with change, I go through organization. Is if there's a big change coming, organization is how I cope. I do checklists, right? Cross them off when things are going on so that I know that I'm coping. So, Preston, building better documentation for everyone's benefit, following the same process. Yeah. So sounds like some organization for you as well. If there's a big change coming, building some kind of documentation so people have a place, to read what's going on and make sure everyone is on the same page with a big change at work. And one of the things that we think about during this change, made people happier, right? Present information is so important when change is going on. So some people really need to lean into getting more information to understand what's happening. But when we think about change, and something that tends to come up when we're rolling with change, is that idea of adaptation, right? When we are trying to be in that face of change, we have to adapt. And I like that there, what you said, Megan. So, visibility and transparency is a big one for you. So, really having that deep understanding of why, right? Having that information of why. And when we have that deeper understanding, we can help face that change with adaptation, with adapting to that change. And I love this quote from Charles Darwin because he was right. And it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change. And that is sort of where resilience and grit are in there. How do we need to know how to adapt, right? So that we can then be adapting in the face of resilience and in the face of change. So let's have a look at now resilience versus grit because they are the two different skills. So we've had a look at change. I want to have a look at what now resilience and grit are. But I first want to hear from you all again what comes to mind when you think of the word resilience. When I say resilience, what comes to mind? Because we're going to start here in exploring resilience. And what's really interesting about resilience and grit when we are comparing the two is that you can have resilience without grit, but you can't have grit without resilience. So, yeah, Molly, overcoming. So, resilience, overcoming. I like that. I haven't seen that term used before for resilience. I like that one, overcoming. Bouncing back, Jolby. Yeah, bouncing back. So if we look at resilience, patience, that's a great one too. There's really no one single definition when it comes to resilience, but if we had to pinpoint one here right now as a definition for resilience, it's the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. But with that, if we take out that adapt, what you have said fits into this. So if you look at, right, the process of bouncing back well in the face of adversity, right, the process of being patient in the face of adversity, the process of overcoming, right, in the face of adversity or trauma or tragedy or threats. So all of your terms that you've put here today in the chat all do mean resilience. And it's just that ability to really come back after encountering some kind of adversity. Building resilience comes from learning from that experience and then being better prepared the next time. Because let's face it, life doesn't come with a map, right? It comes with Google Maps, but it doesn't come with a map for all the twists and turns that you're going to experience with the challenges of every day. So every change we experience is going to affect us differently, bringing about an individual reaction and flood of thoughts, strong emotions, uncertainty. But generally, people who are able to adapt and bounce back to the ever-changing situations is in part to resilience. If we switch gears now and have a look at grit, so now we have an understanding of what resilience is. Grit. What words or phrase come to mind when you think of grit? I'm going to give you the answer again, obviously. But I want to hear what you think when you hear grit. Or you might hear grittiness. Someone has grittiness. Determination. Oh, great word. I love that one. Yeah, determination. Thanks, Joby. Anyone else? What comes to mind when you think of grit? Ability to overcome problems. Yeah, good one, Gary. So when we think about grit, one of the important people, a leading scientist and psychologist in grit, is Angela Duckworth. And over years of study, herself and her colleagues ventured into many areas of education and business with the questions of who is successful here and why. And the one characteristic that emerged as a significant predictor of success was actually grit. Not social intelligence or emotional intelligence or even IQ and smarts. It was actually grit. And she defines it as the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. So it's having the stamina, right? Sticking to your future day in, day out, not for the week, not for the month, but for the years. Think of it as like a marathon, right? Not a sprint. And what's really interesting is actually how little science knows about building grit. It's still a very fairly new area and an ongoing science that is still being studied because we don't know a lot of areas about how to build grit. But there are a few steps that we can take in helping build it. And a lot of it does come around that goal setting and that determination and passion to meet those goals. I love some of these other words here for grit: tenacity, strength, keeping on going when the going gets tough, right? That really brings in our resilience as well. So, one thing that we want to talk about, though, if we step back and look at resilience and grit overall in the workplace, because we've looked at what it is, and we're not yet there, and I'm not teaching any skills yet. We'll get there shortly. But I want to have a look at why it's important. Right? So resilience and grit in the workplace really does help build employee health and well-being. Employees and employers who learn to build resilience can develop skills in handling conflict successfully, right? Remaining calm and relaxed when under some stress, helps reduce the incidence of burnout. And burnout, we know, is that continuation of just ongoing stress. So if we have resilience and grit, we can help sort of reduce that incidence. And it can actually give you the ability to try new things and set some long-term goals. If you have that internal ability to be resilient, you're more likely to try. And then if there's a setback, try again, right? So you're more likely to try new things. Have a think about these four. What one resonates with you the most in your workplace? Having resilience or grit, which one resonates the most for you? Handling conflict. Maybe you've seen it in others at the workplace, or maybe it's something that you know is really strong for yourself. Helping you to maybe remain relaxed or calm when you're stressed. And trying new things and setting some goals. Which one resonates with you? And the reason that I bring it up for you to reflect on this is so that you can have a think about if you already feel like resilience and grit is somewhere there in your skill set, is because we do all already have some point, some part of skill in resilience and grit. And we're going to dive into that as we learn how to build resilience and grit today. Remaining relaxed when under stress, challenging the status quo, Emma. Yeah, so we already have it. So if we look at building resilience, we're going to start here. I'm going to show you what the overall whole workshop would look like first, just so you can get a little bit of an understanding and a peek. And then we're going to dive into one of the skills for resilience. So here is where the full workshop covers, obviously, change. We really explore change at a deeper level with some activities. We really analyze it. We look at then specifically resilience and look at some two strategies, and we're going to do one of these today, our AAA. And then we also look at cognitive reappraisal and cognitive appraisal techniques for helping you build resilient skills. And then in grit, we learn about gripping your grittiness model. And we do this with the acronym of grit. And it's all about goal setting. It's all about resilience as well, because you actually need resilience to be gritty. It's about improvements daily, and it's about finding that passion as well. So really exploring something that is passionate for you. So today we're going to just have a look at resilience, and we're going to have a look at our AAA technique for discovering your unique ability in resilience. Because even just having a look at that slide previous, when we had a look at what resilience looks like in the workplace, and you've reflected on trying new things, challenging the status quo, right? These kinds of things that you brought up in the chat. Are you already showing your resilient skills? So that's where we're going to go right now. So grab a pen and paper, because you're going to want to note this down. This is going to be our activity for today. One powerful way to build resilience is to study our past. And we can do this with our acronym here of AAA, understanding the actions that you took, recognizing who and where you got assistance from, and realizing the answers you discovered that helped you get through it. Thinking about what techniques did you try, what worked for you, what did you learn, and recognizing all three of these and how they all work together. Then call it out AAA, right? It's your helpline, your AAA. Because if you can investigate an area of your life where you have been resilient, that is discovering your skills of resilience that you already have. And you can apply these with this very simple model to future experiences. Your past experience is evidence and tangible proof of what you're capable of. And that can help you build confidence because you've done it before. So I want you to have a think now about a past experience where you displayed resilience in the face of a change, because remember, we've talked about change. You don't need to put an answer in the chat yet, but I want you to write down on your paper, what was the actions that you took when you displayed resilience? Who assisted you? And that doesn't necessarily have to be one person or people. Assistance also comes from the form of research and information. And then what answers did you find? What was the solution? So, again, as I walk through this activity, noting down on your paper, what actions did you take in the face when you displayed resilience in the face of change in your past? What actions did you take? Who assisted you? And what answers and solutions did you find? And then when you're ready, I'd love to hear from you in the chat, just a brief rundown. You don't have to give us a rundown of the actual activity that you were resilient for, right? The scenario, you don't have to give us that. But I'd love to hear what were some of those actions and assistance and answers that came up for you. So again, just having to think about maybe a challenging situation or a change and what came up for you for actions, assisting, and answers. And I'll give you an example. So, for myself, as I had already explained earlier, I lean into organization. So, if I'm facing a change and if I have been resilient, because we're not always resilient, not every change can we be resilient in. We learn it, it's a skill. But my actions are normally around that organization. So I do list things and I do checklists. And my assistance can normally come from I might lean into someone at work to get more information or more help. Right? I like a deeper understanding of some kind of change to really understand. And then my answers and my solutions that come out of that is then if I've faced that change and I've become organized and I've seeked out assistance, then I have some kind of plan and pathway to go forward with. I like that Irma looked at the silver linings and the good outcomes of the change. That's so powerful. So that is your skill already that you have in resilience, Irma, is looking at the good outcomes. You're actually doing right there with a silver lining and good outcome. You're actually doing what is a cognitive appraisal, which is looking at something, a change with another perspective. And that's a really great skill in resilience. So if you've done that in the past and you've been able to look for a good outcome in a change in the past, and that's how you displayed your resilience, then moving forward on the next change, you can lean into that skill that you already have. Look at the silver lining. And if you can't see the silver lining, it's okay to get assistance in seeing it. And if the good outcome is really hard to see, who can you ask that could help you see that good outcome? We'll give it another moment here if anyone else wishes to share to see where maybe their skill set already lies in resilience. Again, this activity is about leaning into our past to actually discover the skills we already have. I had someone in a workshop once before, some other resilience skills that sort of came out, um, some actions and assistance that came out. For one person that had shared previously, their skills in resilience was not so much about organization. It wasn't about having help from people. It was actually about sharing her story. So she had faced a very traumatic adversity scenario. And for herself, sharing her story and getting that story out with other people was her way of being resilient. It really helped her overcome the adversity that she had faced, which was a really interesting skill to be able to share that information with other people. I like that too, Megan. This too shall pass, right? Having that mindset shift is so important. This too shall pass. And Irma, having a support system is huge, whether it's at home with your spouse, whether it's a manager or colleagues at work, very key. We can't always face everything alone. Okay. So if you have not shared with us today, that's no problem, but I would love for you to try this out, is think through the actions, the assistance, and the answers to pinpoint what skills you already have. Because as I mentioned, those are the ones you can lean into in the future. I like that too, Megan. Having a community, being able to connect with others and chatting with others about your experience is so helpful in being resilient. We don't have to go about things and change alone. So this wraps up our taste of the workshop today. You have looked at just one aspect of resilience and learning some skills in resilience. But I wanted to sort of give a little insight into the whole workshop and sort of what you could expect in a full length workshop, because we've just done a little bit of communicating, a little bit of taste here with the chat function. But our workshops are actually much, much more interactive in our platform. So, within a full length workshop, you would participate in a range of activities and techniques to explore further resilience and grit. As I showed you before, we've got lots of different techniques, but you would be doing lots of think and write self reflections, similar to what we did today, and then sharing and discussing and learning from each other with those self reflections. Breakouts and engagement activities, so whole group discussion, brainstorming activities, right? Being able to partner with a few people to really look at some of those tools, really helpful when we look at perspective change under cognitive reappraisal, where you are looking at a different perspective in the face of a change. And then lots of self awareness and change exploration is really where we go within these activities. So the key takeaways that we would look at overall, and we've even hit some of these today, right, is that change is constant. Reflect on your experiences of change and use resiliency and grit to face new changes. We would be looking at using that AAA, looking at your skills you already have, and then developing cognitive reappraisal skills as well. And then gripping your grittiness, right? By learning how to build your grittiness, by looking at using resilience, but looking at goal setting, looking at improvements, and looking at being transfixed with some kind of passion in that area. And overall, if we have a think about resilience and grit, we're thinking about developing a growth mindset. Because if you believe your talents can be developed and that ability to learn is not fixed, that it can be changed with your effort, right? That you don't believe that failure is a permanent condition, those are all aspects of a growth mindset. And our Stanford University professor, Carol Dweck, really talks about growth mindset as being that understanding, knowing that you can push past something that's challenging. And a growth mindset is that secret weapon to building grit, right? Is it hard? Yes. It's not something you could develop right now, here, today, in our really short taste of the workshop. But is it worth it? Yes, because you are worth it. Having that resilience and having some grit it's worth it for yourself, for your home life, for your work life. So that's everything from me for today, giving you just that little taste and that look into mainly into resilience today, a little bit of change. But I really enjoyed having you all here. Thank you so much for those that participated in the chat, so we can have a little bit of a chat discussion around these concepts. Otherwise, I will hand it back to you, Ben. And again, thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Bendy. Virtual round of applause, everybody, for Bendy coming here and sharing all this great knowledge around resiliency and grit. I definitely did that AAA exercise, and it was a nice little, to remind the assist part. I think is to me was the most important part. Just remembering, who assisted me or what assisted me on getting the answers I needed to overcome those situations. And so I think that's one that I think a lot of people could really look at, is just how much assistance you really have. But if you guys want to dive deeper, you definitely can. We do have the full course. But just wanted to go over our I dropped the link to the full course in the chat there. You can go there. It's a fully interactive course. We have a schedule up there and everything like that. It's available for purchase. And again, it's much more interactive. You're in a Zoom room. Everyone's got their cameras on. We do other activities like breakout rooms and stuff like that. So it's much more interactive, and you definitely are going to interact not just with the instructor, but your fellow students as well, a lot more in the course. So for March, we've done our 2 live sessions already. So what we do have left is the Ask the Expert sessions, which I mentioned earlier. There is Ask the Expert Next Level Skills for MS Word, and also Ask the Expert Master Outlook. Again, you can come with your questions for the instructors or anything like that, and they will help you out. So if you have a Word document and you're like, man, I don't know how to do citations, or you need help with that, you can come in and the instructor will help you out right then and there with citations. And again, to sign up for all these, you're going to want to go to offsitebylearnit.com. That's our online community, again, of 7,000 office professionals. And right here, you can scan the QR code. It'll take you right there. You can join up today. Again, live instructor help, exclusive Ask the Expert sessions. You can also go in there and we have a full functioning community board, Slack channel, whatever you want to call it, in there, where you can ask questions for any of the instructors and they will answer them. And again, you can bring your Excel questions, your time management questions, communication skills questions, and you can drop them in there and our instructors will answer you within 48 business hours. And then finally, you can also earn badges, certification, and other exclusive offers, which are available only to offsite members. So again, scan the QR code, join up today, and take advantage of those live instructor sessions when they're available. Bendy, I don't know if you had a few minutes for some Q&A. I think we had said that in the chat that there might be some Q&A. So
Yeah.
if you guys had any thoughts or questions or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the chat. Megan, you were very really enjoyed this thought-provoking session. Thanks from Joel B. Thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you, Megan. Here's from Gary. Very good presentation. Great job, Bendy. Great job, Bendy. I'll give you another round of applause. Really learned a lot. And again, these are all skills that you guys can use in the office, to help yourself and everything like that, especially resiliency and grit. Office work is never just straightforward. There's never a straightforward path in office work, like everyone makes it sound like, you're going to get there and just work your way straight to the top, but it's ebbs and valleys, just like life. And, skills like resiliency and grit will definitely get you through that and get you further ahead. And, maybe just bring some peace to you as well at work.
And especially in these last couple years of change, right? Everything's been changing at work.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Working from home. That's been a big one. Here's the question from Irma. I followed Angela Duckworth, but is there any other book recommendation on grit and resiliency?
Let me have a quick think on that one. Who was my main? Resilience?
I can definitely recommend any book. This is a little bit outside, but any book that is by an athlete, and that's definitely one, especially any boxer or anything like that. Obviously, Muhammad Ali is the easy choice to go to about reflecting on grit and resiliency. Any autobiography about him is going to cover that in depth and detail. Really, any athletes type, especially boxers. Boxers usually come up from lower income communities. And so they have a ton of grit and resiliency that they have to overcome to get to that. I mean, even, it's always kind of like a big comeback story, or I shouldn't say comeback story, but just having to come through a lot just to get to that point, or having to do so much training, practice. They say the most successful people fail 1,000 times before they, have that one big success. So
right.
Anything like that. Yeah. Michael Jordan, there you go.
Michael Jordan, there's a good one.
Yeah,
I did like Carol Dweck. If you sort of lean into that idea of growth mindset, that's a really powerful avenue to go as well, for recommendations. Carol Dweck, and her work on resilience and growth mindset.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you, Irma, for the question. Great question, and thank you for participating. We love seeing people participate. It always makes these sessions so much better. I'll give it a few more seconds for anyone else that might have any more questions. Yes, we love Dweck too. Yep, Carol Dweck's
yep.
mental and turning a lot of things around for a lot of people. Having that growth mindset definitely. You hear the word, but everyone has it. Everyone can think forward and everything like that. It's not. It's something that everyone innately has because you've all pushed forward through something. It's just becoming more aware of it and pushing using it as often as possible. I think is the key.
Exactly. I love that too, what you said there, because it really is, all of it is skills that we can learn, and it's skills that we've already shown somewhere in our life. So we just sort of have to tune into that, right? And see what have we done before, and lean into those skills we already have.
Well, it looks like the chat is calming down a little bit there, so we'll wrap this up. Again, thank you once again, Bendy. You guys will be back in April, 2 Fridays in April with live classes. Once I get the schedule, I'll definitely let you guys know. It'll be up on our YouTube channel and also on Offsite. Both will be there. And just a quick reminder, we do have our full course of Power BI premiering at 9:30. So in just 10 minutes from now, 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. It's 8+ hours of Power BI from Trish Connor Cato. This course was built to get you certified in Power BI based on the old Microsoft certification path. All the material there is still extremely relevant. 99.9% of it is still in use today. So if you guys want to become masters of data analysis and being able to visualize your data expertly, I definitely recommend checking out the next video. And again, that's in 10 minutes. If you guys have it's 8 hours, so I'm expecting you guys to sit through all 8 hours right now, but it's there available for you guys as a resource. And I hope you guys enjoy it. It seems our full courses have become very popular recently, so we're going to get more of those to you. But if there's nothing else, I think we'll just wrap this up right now. I said that twice, so let's do it. All
All
right.
right. Thanks again,
Thank
Ben.
you.
Thank you.